He's an HBCU college grad, Pine Bluff.
Yeah, I got
If we have any Divine Nine members, he's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi.
Omega to the
And he's a father.
Yeah.
Father of 2 African American males.
Oh, wonderful.
A beautiful family. So him and I sat down and we talked about all of my concerns. And those of you who know me, I'm very concerned about Black contractors. I'm very concerned about the plight of Black males in our society. And him and I have talked extensively and put together things in place that we're going to do to help improve the 38% unemployment rate, to help improve the 1% for Black contractors in the city of Dallas. He's worked over 20 years within the city of Dallas and sat on various boards, so he knows all, believe me, all the intricate details of procurement, the NBE policy that matter of fact, he wrote for the city of Dallas that we have right now. So I'm very proud of him. You have United Black Contractors, we can't endorse. So you have our endorsement and you let us know what you need, and we love you, we support you, and we appreciate you, and we salute you. And without further ado, Zarin, Gracey, District 3, City of Dallas. Now just because we cannot endorse, it doesn't mean we can't support. And we do support Mr. Zarin Gracey, okay?
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I wasn't expecting such a warm introduction. But when you get certain people behind you, people like Tammy, and I don't want to get into naming names, but Tammy has been one that has been rocking with me back before I even knew that I was going to be doing this. So thank you for your support, your friendship, and your encouragement.
Don't forget me, son.
I love you. Thank you so much. That's why I say I didn't want to go around the room, but I get all mushy. I'm sensitive a little bit. But I'm here today to really talk to you about a couple of things, well, really one thing, and that is the bond program, the 2024 bond program. What you're looking at is a $1.25 billion program. And before I get into some of the details of what that looks like, you got 10 propositions here that's going to address some of everything. Let me talk to you about how we got to the 1.25 first. If you remember, we started out at $1.1 billion, which was a lot. And the council, and first of all, we had over, I think it was about 90 different volunteers from the community. Each council member had representatives to represent each one of these bond propositions to really go through and assess what the district needed. That was 90 people. So if you're in here, you participated, and if you're not, and you know who they are, tell them thank you, because that was indeed a labor of love that can cause you to question your why many, many nights and many, many days going through that, because it was a lot of back and forth just to get it to our table. And then when it came to our table, our colleagues, we had an opportunity to go around and assess those projects, assess the dollar amounts, and really try to figure out what did we need in our district, and is this going to be enough? So one of the things we all kind of concluded, some of us, we were about split, but some of us kind of came to the conclusion that once we recognize, and I'm gonna try to break this down, when you go with the city and when you're talking about bond, all you're really talking about is a credit line. Right? It's about going to the bank and saying, hey, I want to do this. I need to get my house fixed. I need to get my plumbing fixed, my electrical. I need to get all these things done. And I need to do that, and I don't have money. It's going to cost me $100,000 to get all this stuff fixed. I need to go to the bank to get a credit line. That's what essentially the city of Dallas did. Every time we have these bond programs and every time we come out, we're asking you all permission. Hey, Ma, is it all right if I go and get this credit line because I need to do this? And we're asking you all's permission to say yes, and this is what it's going to cost you, and this is what it's going to get you. That's the overall process in a summary. So we got to that, started at $1.1 billion. Then the councils, my colleagues, we started having conversations about it and then determined, well, we actually have capacity to increase the bond program. So in other words, we discovered, hey, my credit limit is a little bit better than I thought it was. So instead of 100,000, I really need about 150 to do everything that I want. So as a council, collectively, we went through and decided we had the capacity to do that. And more importantly, it's not gonna cost you all any money for us to do that, any additional money for us to do that. So we made that the decision to add an additional 125 million, taking that bond program up to $1.25 billion. A majority of that 125 million really went through, there was these terms that are floating around, discretionary income, discretionary funds, things like that. But it really boils down to district-specific dollars. So that 125 million additional was really meant to be divided amongst the council members so that we could do some of those additional projects that we wanted to do. So with that, I'm just gonna walk you through each one of these projects and kind of talk a little bit about some of them. I'm not gonna go into a lot of details, but the first and foremost was over $521 million for streets and transportation. I can go into details about the why that dollar amount is as high as it is and all of those kind of things, but I think we all know that $521 million is not even enough to scratch the surface in terms of what we need in order to get our streets to where we want them to be. But this is where we were, and it's a historic dollar amount. They were originally asking for 5 something, and we got them to just north of that. So everybody was satisfied in terms of the street and transportation projects. That also includes, in District 3, our streets aren't as bad as some of the other districts, and I can knock on wood and kind of brag a little bit about that. Not that I did anything, but our streets are better. So as a result, a lot of those funds will be allocated towards alleys. We got a lot of bad alleys in our district that needs some repairs, so a lot of my allocation will go towards some alley repairs there. The next one, bit of a controversial one, but it was a really good one. It was the parks. We're looking at $345 million going towards parks. Now, the thing I appreciate about that, again, you have some controversy. You're putting more in housing than you are in parks and those kind of things, but let me just talk a little bit about what that gets us. Right here, there's $1 million that's gonna go for the design of the Redbird, the park out here, to really kind of start looking at a design of what that could be. We have the football field out there that needs some work and some things like that. So $1 million of this project is gonna go to design that. Another just north of $11 million is going towards Glendale Park. And if anybody knows, when I did run, and you all, we sit right there, and my buddy August Doyle brought it up more than anybody I know about Glendale Park. And he had a letter, and I remember that. It was dated April 1st, 1980. That's how long we've been asking for some of the changes, some of the things and repairs in Glendale Park. So we're now able to get some of that going through that. When we talk about discretionary funds, I have about $2 million allocated specifically for Glendale Park, because now that we have the 3 different phases of the park kind of going in design with this $11 million, we needed one more piece to connect the phase 1 on this side of Ledbetter to the other side. So I have $2 million set aside to really go towards a pedestrian bridge to really connect all of those pieces. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was able to give us 6.5 to connect the creek, to do a bridge across the creek to connect that side. This $2 million and some other money that I've asked Ms. Crockett for to help us cover the pedestrian bridge that'll go across there. But this parks. So there's a lot of opportunity, and we know that brings economic opportunity. And more importantly, we learned that during the pandemic, it was those parks that brought sanity back to many of us from there. So that's where that's going. The flooding, that's another one. We talk about that. We have going $52 million going towards our flooding. When we talk about flooding, a lot of the city has a lot of creeks, and I've gone to some areas in the district where I've literally seen sheds in creek beds. I've seen trees leaning over. I've seen people losing property. I see the stress that people have year after year as that creek gets closer and closer to their property. So this $52 million is really an effort to address a lot of the erosion control that we see around the district and a lot of the flooding that happens. And a lot of that you see is from work in previous bond programs where some of that is shored up and then it flows down. So we need to continue to shore up a lot of that to reduce the erosion. We have $43 million going towards public libraries. Some of that is to replace some libraries. Some of it is to provide some repairs. And I don't remember the list of all of the libraries at this time, but that's one to cover that. And then we wanted to invest in the arts and cultural facilities. That was a big topic as well. It started out fairly low, But when you think about some of the arts in our facilities that we have, a lot of them aren't ADA compliant, a lot of them elevators broken, those kind of things. And in addition to you all attending, we have staff that work there every single day that end up having to take stairs because they're either too scared to take the elevator or whatever the case may be. So a lot of this is really meant to shore up a lot of our cultural arts facilities. Public safety, we got $90 million that's going towards public safety there to really help sure that in that is included $10 million that's going towards the public safety training facility for DPD. Now, there's been some folks kind of going around talking about why are you placing that in the hood and doing all of these kind of things. Well, the fact of the matter is, it's been right over here for years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, direction challenge. It's over there somewhere. But it's been there for years, and if you've ever been in there, the place is terrible. It's a mess. It's not any real facility for officers to go and train from there. So this is really an opportunity to invest in the training facilities for our officers, but more importantly, because of the location, I think it's an opportunity to really encourage civic engagement, either in the form of becoming a police officer and the other opportunities that will come. I am very much a proponent of folks coming and working for the city for obvious reasons. One, we're short, but there's so many career opportunities that can go from working at the city. So a lot of that is going to go towards keeping our community safe and really helping the police. And then we have economic development to where we can attract jobs and growth. We got $72 million going towards economic development. That one you may have seen through the discussions, a lot of the conversations. We had a whole lot of money placed in housing at one point, but then we learned, according to the city attorney's offices and things like that, if we put all of that money in housing, we're not going to be able to use it for what we intended. Many of my colleagues wanted to set that in there specifically for different various home repair programs and supportive housing programs and things like that. But really, when you put it in there, it has to be used specifically for infrastructure. So what you see, So what you see in housing are dollars that are set aside specifically for infrastructure. I set aside another $2 million specifically in housing because, again, being a freshman elected official, I worked for the city for 16 years. I know how to go and get that, but I don't know it from this angle. So I wanted to make sure that if they outmaneuvered me to this money, I at least had some money set aside to ensure that I had $2 million set aside specifically for single family home development. That is what I want. That is what the district has been asking for. And that's the thing that I think really a majority of Southern Dallas has been missed on, is the opportunity to develop single family homes. So for me personally, I set $2 million aside for single family homes to ensure that we got that. Thank you so much. That really does, that matters a lot. So there's housing for that. There's a lot of housing money set aside in the housing to really for the our home repair programs. Many of you may know people, have family members that's gone through that process where we run out of money, run out of funds to support that program. This money is set aside to really ensure that the home repair programs can be set up. Before, the housing department has gone through several iterations of that program. In some cases, it was a situation where, you know, grandma calls to get her roof repaired, only to discover that, grandma, you need new electrical system, you need plumbing. I can't put a new roof on a broken house. So the more they got to digging in. So really this program now is really up to a certain dollar amount. I don't remember that dollar amount, but it's for them, gives them the ability to go in, assess, and actually do all the necessary repairs in there. Homeless solutions, we put 19 million. That was another one. Listen, I'll say it this way. The city of Dallas has a housing crisis. That is not anything new. Many of you may or may not be in real estate from there, so we know that that's not a secret. But the other piece is, in addition to a housing problem, we have a homeless problem. Now, we're in the very early stages of that. We've been looking at other cities, San Francisco and all of those that let it get away from them. We have an opportunity to really keep us from becoming an LA, keep us from becoming a San Francisco in how we stand up permanent supportive housing. That's that place to land. And I'll just tell this quick story. I was in Fort Worth, don't remember why. I typically don't drive past Loop 12 unless I have business, I promise you. So I was out there for something and I was walking, I took a wrong turn, ended up downtown, and I was, a lot of homeless folks down there, and I saw this guy walking, and he was a newly homeless person. I could tell his clothes were still fairly clean. He had a lot of his stuff. It all looked neat, but he was wandering aimlessly. And I remember, and I said a little prayer for him, but it was like, man, this dude has nowhere. You could see it. And it was just a quick drive, and I could see it on his face. He didn't know what he was going to do. This type of bond proposition really gives an answer to that. If you're newly homeless, you're not, before you get too far down that road, let's try to get you back in and find a place for you to stay and get you on your feet. So a lot of this is for permanent supportive housing. Now, with that said, I very much think that there's a need for permanent supportive housing throughout the city. However, I do agree that I do believe that we need to be intentional and smart about the placement of those. And I'll just do this little plug, and then I'll move on to my next proposition. 2929 Southampton is not the right place to create permanent supportive housing. There, I said it. Stay tuned. We're going to be having community meetings about that, so I'll keep you involved. One of the things, the mistakes that we made in terms of trying to address permanent supportive housing is we can sometimes make hasty decisions in order to address it. Right heart, wrong brain. So in this case, this is an area where we want to make sure that we're addressing it, but we're doing it smart, and we're doing it intelligently. And for that reason, I have a plan or a proposal. I want to get some feedback from the community, but really redirecting some of those funds over to Independence. District 3 has 2, in case you didn't know. So we have one on Hampton, and then we have another one on Independence property, and I want to redirect those funds. So that's my little plug. Stay tuned. You'll see some information about that coming out. And then the last one is our IT. We got $5 million going towards IT infrastructure. With the IT infrastructure, again, all I can say is hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your father, because they out here and they are hacking any and everybody. Nothing is safe, not your phones, not your computers, and you really got to do some real diligence in terms of making sure that you're secure. This is no different from the city. I can't even count, I lost count of the number of cities that have been hacked and their information is being held hostage right now. They're holding information hostage. That's your information. If you've been through the water bills, if you've been on an ambulance route, all of these things are at risk. This is really meant to shore up our safety and our IT so that we can ensure that your information, our information is safe during that, and we're not compromised in terms of how we're operating. So those are kind of the 10 propositions in a nutshell. I'll kind of pause and see if there are any questions from there, and if there's any I need to go into a little bit more detail about. I saw your hand first, and I see you over here. Yes, ma'am.
My question is, how many houses do you think you can build $2 million?
Thank you for that question. So the $2 million is not necessarily to build the houses. The $2 million is to be leveraged and used towards infrastructure. A lot of times the developers are going to come with their own capital stack to fund it. This is just meant to help kind of cover the infrastructure. A lot of when you talk about single family housing, they say it's too expensive, and primarily because of the infrastructure cost. So this is really meant to leverage those dollars along with what they bring to the table, not necessarily building.
When you say infrastructure, you mean like
the pipe, the roads, the pipes,
okay.
The plumbing.
Okay, so we've got up at the top, $521 million, which I assume was going to be dealing with a certain amount of infrastructure. But I'm concerned about housing in the city.
Yep.
Now, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to find that nobody can afford to live here because we don't have any housing, and $2 million is basically built 4 houses in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, if that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then the homeless population, I'm just appalled that they're down to 19 million. Our problem with housing and homelessness is really just incredibly expansive. And to think about only 19 million, it to me, it just doesn't seem to be logical.
Tell her where it came from, and then she might feel better.
What do you mean?
Because it was less than 19 million.
Yeah, so I don't remember where it was. It was lower than that, and we were able to move it up. Not that makes you feel better, but But the thing I need you all to kind of appreciate from this is meant to leverage other programs that the city has. So housing has access to a lot of those HUD dollars and a lot of those different programs to address housing infrastructure and all of that. These dollars are really meant to help assist in moving us towards that. So when you see this for housing, what is it, 72? Where'd it go?
72 million.
Economic development. So, yeah, so housing is 26 million, then you have 72 million in economic development. A lot of the dollars that are in that economic development piece is also meant going towards infrastructure as well. So it's just a matter of where you're putting it. For example, one of my colleagues is in addition to doing a new library, he's putting housing on top of the library, which I thought was a pretty innovative idea. So he's taking a portion from library and a portion from economic development to do the housing. So there's different ways to mix and match these dollars, but then there's other programs within the city that we use to leverage the programs as well.
Yeah, I know you said 29 Hampton, that's the old Renaissance Hospital.
Correct. Or General Medical, I've heard different names, yeah, that old
I'm
hospital.
planning on making that for homeless people, but the community objected because it's so close to that school, the sure school. But I'm not familiar with the Independence work now.
That's right at Westmoreland and Camp Wisdom.
On the backside,
By the
that
mall.
little backside.
I know you heard me say this last night too. The other major cities, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, they all went like 150, I think 150 million on up for housing. When they call a roll and they say Houston, 300, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, 300 million. Austin, I mean, 200 million. San Antonio, how much? 150 million. Dallas, 26 million.
Yeah.
That's a long gap between us and the other larger cities. I was wondering, we got a lot of geniuses downtown that figured out something that the other large cities didn't see. You know?
It was an interpretation of the law, is really what it boils down to. The city attorney's office told us that we weren't able to put, so we had, I don't remember the dollar amounts that we had in housing, which is why you saw that shift from housing into economic development, because they told us that's where we could, if we were trying to use it for infrastructure or any type of housing development, it needs to go over here. If you put it in housing, it can only be used for these type of programs.
You're gonna turn around and you're gonna have a lot of people that can't afford to live here. That's why now the people they say Dallas Fort Worth is growing, but they were saying a lot of them are not coming to Dallas. They're going to Forney, Kaufman County, Denton County, and I forgot the other county. That's where the people are going because we're gonna keep losing them if we don't. But anyway,
Yeah, I appreciate it.
but thank you for what you do.
Thank you. And again, pay attention to, and I'll get you in a second, but pay attention to, because a lot of the conversations, we've been having a lot of these housing conversations as well in terms of the housing types. I know there's been some controversy around even the Forward Dallas, but some of the great conversations I think that have come from it are the different housing. And for the first time, I'm actually having conversations with developers. I had a conversation today with a developer that wants to put apartments. I'm tired of apartments. I don't want those anymore. Can you get us some townhomes? What does that look like? Go back to the drawing board and start asking for some of those things that are more affordable and more attainable there. Because again, when you look at the combination of housing that we have, house, apartment. House, apartment. There's not a lot of townhomes, not a lot of those opportunities. So this is some things we're looking at.
So I've been in Dallas less than 2 years now. I was born and raised in Chicago. And a lot of our aunts and elders had 3 flats.
Yep.
So you had the 3 flat, and when somebody
Yep.
fell on hard times,
They come to
moved
stay
in on
in
the
the
second
basement,
floor.
all
You might
of
have
that.
had somebody on the basement, and so I was looking for like 2 or 3 flats here.
We don't have basements. So, but to your point, again, and that's the thing, again, when you refer to that, that's not necessarily something that a lot of people in Dallas may be familiar with, so it sounds foreign. I'm familiar with it. I lived in one when I was in St. Louis, so I'm familiar with what that looks like, and it's a matter of trying to find the right way to introduce these housing types. And again, the push is not to introduce them in the middle of neighborhoods, but where we're putting all of these apartments and all of that is to reconsider how we're designing the neighborhood. So those are some conversations that.
And I went away to college and they had duplexes.
Yep.
So you're like, y'all don't have any of that, like everything is a huge complex or a house. There's no, like, you don't have neighbors where You're sharing, I mean, you might share a wall, but then you're still sharing that space in kind of, not necessarily safety, but you kind of know your neighbor as opposed to being like the other house over there. So I was looking for stuff like that here.
I'll tell you too, and I think I've said this publicly. You know, I grew up in Kansas City, moved here from St. Louis. Chicago was one of my first, my wife came over to live. So I'm very familiar with that. And I think a lot of it is, I've been personally trying to find developers that are from those older cities that know how to work with what they have, but not change what we have, kind of a thing. So just trying to find some of those developers that can look at this land a little bit differently from that. That's on my own personal agenda in terms of development types as well, because I think that's an interesting discussion that we want to have as well. So we can come back and I'll make that commitment. Yeah. So, and they are stickler for time here. So one more question here, ma'am.
Well, the question I have was related to the IT spend, because $5 million is not a lot of money when you're talking about information technology. So what department specifically? We know policing.
So the IT infrastructure is really citywide, because when we were at risk, that covered a lot of things. I don't have the details, and I apologize for not having that in terms of what specifically that's going to do for the city hall.
Is the building 15? So not really improving cybersecurity. Yeah, I was at $5 million.
They're building that they're on the house at.
Got it.
Any other questions? No. No more questions. Thank y'all for having me.
No more questions.
Would an evening be better?
Yeah.
Like 6 to 7 or 6 to 8?
We can do 6, and again, I'll make sure I block it out so I'm here.
Okay, good deal. So when would you guys like to, sooner than later, because we want to be able to early vote as much as possible?
I'll tell you what.
Okay.
Sometime before the end of the
And while we're doing that, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Judge Williams. If you would stand up and say. Wait a minute, don't sit down just yet. Tell them who you are and which court.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dominique Torres Williams. I'm the presiding judge of Dallas County Criminal Court number 4. I'm a misdemeanor judge here in Dallas County. So happy to be elected by the people of Dallas County. I'm in my 2nd year of my 1st term. I'm actually a little tired right now. I started a jury trial today, but I'm happy to be here. I certainly wanted to hear about the bond. I live in District 3, so thank you so much, Councilman Gracey, for the information that you provided. I will be early voting and voting yes for everything, but I'm a member. My husband is the one who signed me up. But I'm a proud member and I'm here today, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge Williams. And it's always great to see you. So thank you and Mr. Williams for being here. On our way out, I would like to see DeMarcus Oxford as well as Mr. Will Davis and anyone else that's interested in putting some footprints down for the political action that we're getting ready to take. And guys, believe me when I say it all starts with the voting. So if we take care of the voting, we take care of who we elect, then it'll take care of some of the other things. All right? So if you're interested in participating with that, we will have a meeting after the meeting in the parking lot.
Monday, May 22nd or the 23rd?
Monday, May 22nd. April 22nd. April 22nd.
We can do 6 o'clock.
6 p.m. So we will be putting out a notification. Once again, I want you guys to know that came from Councilman Zarin Gracey. He's committed to the NAACP of providing that information because the best voter is an educated voter. Just know who's working with you. That's all I'm saying. We don't endorse, but we do remember. So, once again, guys, I'm really serious about the parking lot meeting. We need to have a parking lot meeting because we don't have to go home, but we do have to get up out of here. So, that pretty much concludes our meeting for this evening. But to those of you that are first-time comers, would you please stand? And it's always good to see my good friend, Mr. Randall Bryant, who serves as the chairperson for the Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce. The newly appointed board member. So congratulations, kudos. Now where are those first time? Stand up, stand up, stand up. So once again, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're looking forward to the work that we're going to do and the noise that we're going to make. And as your president, I certainly appreciate each and every last one of you. And know that, together, the things we can do.
That's right.
All we need is a little help. We just need a little help. So you bring your help on. We have Mr. Cameron in the back. Dr. Cameron Greer, home serves as our education chair. He also works very closely and hard for Black Voters Matter. So hats off to Cameron Greer. And let's give it up for the one and only Mr. C.W. Whitaker.
What he do?
Stand up and wave. Let them see who you are. We appreciate all that you do and have done in the community and will continue to do. Once again, Councilman, thank you so very much. We will be putting out the information for April 22nd at 6 p.m. via Zoom. Everyone bring someone. Guys, we love you, we thank you, and at this time we're going to be prayed out by our chaplain. Is there any unrest, anything that we need to discuss? I know we're all praying people, so I ask that you please pray for this country.
Yes,
There's
Lord.
so much going on, things known to us and unknown to us, but we have got to pray. We have got to pray. So that having been said, Chaplain Ben Brown, you Ben Brown? Come on. He'll get that one on the way home.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this meeting. We thank you for all that were able to come out. We thank you again, oh Lord, for our president, our executive team. Thank you for all our committee chairs and everyone that's worked with this chapter. Pray for everyone that works in our city. We thank God. These things we pray in Jesus' name.
Amen.